Right, so that's live. And hello there, everybody. Welcome along. No doubt we'll get one or two people joining us in the next couple of minutes. And the way that you would know that we've gone live is the notification bell will have gone ping in your YouTube notifications. So the best way to find out if we have gone live with Talkin Comic-Con is by subscribing to us and liking our channel and liking our show. So please head down to the bottom, hit the notifications, and subscribe, please. We've got ourselves the chat room up and running as well. This is where I find that you can shush you. That would be the YouTube playing in the other corner, so I'll get rid of that. But I do have the pop-out chat as well. So that is up and running when it comes to the YouTube chat. If there's anything that you want us to cover today, as always, it's your show. Do let us know if there's anything you want us to get into. Obviously, we're going to be talking to some great bloggers, so we're going to be talking about their perspective on San Diego Comic-Con, what they cover, how they approach the show a little bit different to the rest of us. I don't count myself as one of these rarefied VIPs. Not like Angel, not like Aaron, not like Tony. I'm not a celebrity like these guys are. But basically we're going to be talking about what they're looking forward to the show with what, 4 weeks to go. I'm sorry if that statement alone didn't make you go stone cold in your heart, then nothing will at this point. You must be absolutely on the ball, and congratulations to you. We've got Dan Berry's joining us. I know that he's been to Intergalactic Con. We spoke to the organizer of that a couple of weeks ago. Hope you saw that show. That sounds like such a fun convention, and they sound like they've had a great weekend. Super Catchick has joined us. Yes, the badges are shipping. We are going to be talking about that. We've got Andrew English, who's joining us from London. Andy Bayback is saying hi. We've got Nerdy Nicole. Hello, Nerdy Nicole. That's a new name. Maybe a fresh face to the Hangout. Good to have you joining us. Scott's joining us as well. If you do want to jump in on the Hangout, do jump in on the Q&A, and if there's anything you want us to cover today, we will do. Simple as. We hopefully will be joined by one more guest shortly, but we have ourselves, yes, we're kind of going back to when we first started doing the Hangouts, when we had like 8 or 9 people involved, and everyone was jerking slightly because, yeah, just no one could keep, the bandwidth couldn't keep up. But I think we've got a nice, comfortable number today. We're pretty much at the top of the shop. We are missing one person. I'm certain Tony will join us at some point. Although if we get a couple of messages from him saying no, I'm stuck, we'll see if we can get that sorted and get him on.
Oh,
unless,
speaking,
of course,
there we go.
If you speak of the devil, he shall appear.
Cheers.
Hi, Tony. How are you?
My ears were burning.
that would explain it. Excellent stuff. Right, so we are at the top of the... No, we're not. We're 1 minute past. We might as well dive straight in. Welcome to Talkin Comic-Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name's Leonard Sultana, and this is the show where we talk about San Diego Comic-Con, con culture, and all the stuff and nonsense that goes around it. We are, if I just check my calendar, 4 weeks away, just over 4 weeks away, 31 days from San Diego Comic-Con 2018. Whoa. And what difference a week makes. We have had an interesting week, and we're going to get into all of that. We're going to get into some announcements that have been made this week in terms of 1 or 2 exclusives. We're also going to be announcing the winner of the competition that we launched last week as well, to win a copy of Fred Van Lente's The Con Artist, which is a cracking murder mystery, an unconventional whodunit is how it's pitched on the back. Basically, it's a murder mystery that is run over the course of San Diego Comic-Con, and it's a lot of fun to read. We are going to be announcing the winner of that, and I'll tell you more about how you can enter that competition shortly. But first things first, let's go into our guest today, because wow, we've got ourselves a panel and a half. Look at this little lot, this bunch of beauties. First and foremost, just to say, Alyssa will not be joining us today. She is making her journey east to west coast. So we have in her stead Kevin Wallen from the Friends of Comic-Con forum. Hello, Kevin. How are you?
Good morning. Happy Father's Day for anyone in the States.
No, it's Happy Father's Day here in the UK as well. Hi, Dad.
You guys have it aligned, so happy Father's Day around the world.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, usually I would be asking Alyssa, how's the forum been? And she then turns around and goes, I don't know, ask Kevin. So, how's the forum been, Kevin? What's been the major lines of communication? What's been the major chat this week?
The Doctor Who announcement for Hall H. That was a big news. It's been a very slow week, and also badges being shipped. We finally got the announcement on the badge shipments going out late Friday night. So I think a lot of people are excited for their badges and getting ready for the con.
I think 1 or 2 people have actually started receiving them as well. So I think they started getting them yesterday afternoon as well. So yeah, wow. The excitement is up. Yeah, the moment
near that distribution center.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, as pointed out by the unofficial blog and 1 or 2 others, and it's very good advice as well, if you have received your badge and you're very excited about receiving your badge, don't take a picture and put it on social media. Certainly not do it without crossing your name out first, because not a wise idea to do that, certainly for scalpers out there and badge resellers. Just a bit of advice on that. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Kevin. We'll dive into what else the forum's been up to in a bit. But let's go down the line. Eeny, meeny, miny. We have Aaron Nabus joining us from the Hall H show. Hello, Aaron. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. I can't see your picture. It's kind of frozen at this side. Can everyone else see him?
The bandwidth is kind of shorted out on him.
Yeah, it seems to be.
I'm back.
There he is.
Kind of sporadic there.
Yeah, so there's a little bit spotty at your end, but no, it's great to have you here. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you
obviously, you're getting all ramped up with your coverage for the Hall H show. So we're going to get into all of that as well, in terms of who you're excited to be seeing and who you're kind of networking with as well, but we'll get into that. Sure. Thank you very much, Dee, for joining us. We have Stephanie Wilson, aka Angel from the Geekery. Hello, Stephanie. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. How are you? You've already been asked that like 3 times.
We're not too bad. Not too bad. I'm getting there, surviving. But no, it's a pleasure to have you, having you joining us, especially considering that you have a very unique perspective on certain news stories that have happened this week in terms of the way that the Geekery approaches some news stories. So we're going to get into that as well. Thank you very much indeed for coming along. Tony Kim, the man, the myth, the legend, which is Tony Kim, loving the cat, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Team Cat.
Absolutely.
Get it?
You have been a busy boy, sir. In good ways and bad ways, from all of us to all of you. I don't know if anyone's been paying attention to Tony's social media feeds or his private outputs on Instagram and wherever, but he's not had the great time of it recently. How's everything going, Tony?
You know, I've been spending the past 2 days installing hardwood floors because mine was ruined by a plumbing leak, and so my extremities and knees and elbows and all that are like just bruised and nicked and cut and all that. So yeah, you know, we're all our walls are back up and the floors are going in, and so yeah, just having a fun old time, because this is the perfect timing for a massive renovation.
That's what I was thinking. That's not what you need at all. But I mean, I'm glad that it's all starting to come back together. And yeah, we've got Andy Bayback. Hugs to you, Tony. And certainly, we've been seeing lots of well wishes going your way. But we'll be certainly talking about yourself, because like the next person I'm going to introduce, you also have a unique perspective on San Diego Comic-Con, because as you came to it as a blogger, you're now coming to it as an exhibitor, but we'll get into that. We have ourselves, last but not least, Chris Sully. Hello there, sir. How are you?
Hey, everybody. How y'all doing?
Not too bad at all. you at this point should be absolutely broken and shattered, and how on earth you're looking as fresh as a daisy as you are is beyond me. How was E3, sir?
It was great. It was definitely a whirlwind trip, middle of the week, but it's nice to be back and have a couple of days to rest to get ready for so many more cons. It's going to be a busy, busy summer season for sure.
I was about to wonder what you were going to finish that sentence with. Then, we have got so much stuff to do in the next couple of days. At which point you just go, I'm certain that somebody at Funko HQ would be going, shut up.
Oh, they keep close tabs on me. Sure, they're watching right now.
I can't imagine.
Freddie.
Right. The reason why we've invited everybody on is to talk about the bloggers' perspective of San Diego Comic-Con, because certainly when we have talked about press and about the way that some people go into San Diego Comic-Con, it is a different perspective and it turns into a slightly different show. Obviously, it's slightly different for two of you because with Chris and with Tony, like I say, you're now coming in as exhibitors. But when you went in as bloggers, what was the change that you saw when you went as an attendee and then went as a blogger? What was the kind of the difference in San Diego Comic-Con for you? We'll start with Tony.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because practically everyone goes into Comic-Con as a fan first. And to make that shift from fan to now content creator really does, it's a paradigm shift, because I was just thinking the other day about how I went back and listened to a podcast I did back in like 2009 covering Comic-Con. And, it just was basically sitting in Ballroom 20 all day and then sitting in Hall H all day and then just like doing basically whatever I want. And I was just kind of sharing about that. And you realize that when you are creating content and you're trying to create something of value for create a window into, for the outer world out there, that you now have responsibilities and you now have places you need to be, and you want to be able to create a well-rounded coverage. And, that shift is a bit of a challenge because you realize that what you personally want to do is oftentimes sort of sacrifice for kind of the greater good of your website or the team that you're working with. And so even in my particular case, going from being a fan to press to, now doing some exhibiting stuff, I still am doing Crazy for Comic-Con, but in conjunction with a team. And then even with that, as many of you guys know, having a team changes the dynamic as well, because now it's less about me individually and more about kind of quarterbacking and organizing the team itself. And so everything, just kind of becomes, you realize that you kind of look back and go, well, I wouldn't change the past few years for anything, and super grateful for the experiences that I've had. You do kind of look back at those simpler times of like, oh, I remember just sort of like wandering around the hall and just going after that exclusive and doing whatever I wanted. And, those days are kind of, gone. And so it takes on a new form, being a blogger, changing into, that sort of role. But being there, meeting fans, meeting other writers and creators like you guys, I wouldn't change it for the world. It's been a fantastic experience.
I think also the fact that your site, Crazy for Comic-Con, very much is about supporting those people who have not been before, providing as much information going into the convention. So, certainly when I've spoken to a number of bloggers and they talk about the traffic that they get throughout San Diego Comic-Con, that most numbers pretty much crater from the first day, purely because most people are then getting on with the show and
right,
instead of actually diving into the actual show itself. In terms of Stephanie and Aaron, then you're kind of gathering content as well during the convention. So, it's like Tony was saying about responsibilities. How does that shift your Comic-Con? We'll start with Stephanie.
Yeah, so I only attended one time, not as press, but it was more of just trying to like get a lay of the land, and then I started to plan for my team the very next year because I knew I wanted to start covering this type of stuff. So I've kind of been going into San Diego Comic-Con most of the time as like a blogger. But right now my team's kind of trying to figure out what we want to cover, who we want to contact. We have this big spreadsheet, like, okay, this person wants to cover this show and this person wants to cover this show. Who do we email, like, and stuff like that. So I'm kind of overseeing, there's, I think, going to be 6 of us this year, though you and I kind of have joint custody of Dan.
When he starts posting stuff with lots of typing errors, then it's that, no, he's your kid. Okay.
But yeah, kind of overseeing my team right now and getting things ready.
Excellent. I think also I want to kind of bring this up with Aaron, because I do like the fact that the Hall H show and the Hall H podcast kind of doesn't cover so much the tentpole content of San Diego Comic-Con. You go for the niche, the artists and creators, say, for example, in Artist Alley, independent writers. I mean, so how do you prepare for your San Diego Comic-Con, Aaron?
Well, a lot of the preparation happens throughout the year. We're in constant contact with a lot of the creators that we're interested in on social media. We'll, share and like what they do. We'll comment and strike up friendships. We'll go to signing events and just get to know them. So by the time something, as big as San Diego Comic-Con comes along, we've already struck up a relationship, and it's easier for us to sort of say, hey, can you spare a few minutes to, talk to us? So a lot of the legwork is done, really months beforehand. And, aside from Artist Alley and Small Press, we also like to cover, exhibitors like Hero Within, which I'm gladly willing to fork over some cash over again this Comic-Con.
I know what you're wearing.
I'm wearing this right here. Yeah. Yeah. And they make me look good when I'm doing interviews at conventions. So I'm happy to support them. And offsite events, that people may not know about, such as my friend Keith, and he's organizing another event offsite this Comic-Con called it's Afrofuturism Lounge. It's going to be offsite 2 days. It's going to be a Friday and Saturday night from like 7 to 11ish or whatever. So we're gonna have like maybe 20 to 30 African American creators there, showcasing some books that you may not know about, mainstream wise. So we're happy to help them and give them some promotion. And aside from covering this year, I am going to be an exhibitor as well. So you heard it here first. I'm teaming up with my friend Bobby Rubio. He's a story artist at Pixar, but he's always had a booth there since like the mid to early 2000s. And so I'm teaming up with Keith and Jones again with Bobby, and we're sort of calling it the San Diego Comic Initiative. So I'll be helping Bobby sell his comic book and his prints in the morning while he spends time with the family. Me and Alex will be doing that. And then in the afternoon, he's giving us space, like a couch probably, to do podcasts at his booth. So it's a fair exchange, right?
Awesome.
So I'm looking forward to that. So yeah.
Wow. I mean, this is where, I seem to remember a friend of mine who, I think he was putting on, he was wanting to attend a convention as an exhibitor, as a member of press, and cover as much as he possibly could. But he also said, well, I've got a friend of mine who's also selling a number of my prints and a couple of my books as well. And next thing you know, he was stood behind a table pretty much throughout the entire convention. And he was kind of, all of a sudden your convention changes completely. Right. Talking about then the content, I want to put this to Stephanie and also to Chris as well, in terms of what gets the most amount of attention, because at the end of the day, when people hear about Hall H and they hear about the WB panels and they hear about all of the tentpole bits and pieces that you can see, that's also covered by people like Variety, Entertainment Weekly, THR, etc. Like I say with Aaron, then, but the smaller niche properties which don't usually get featured on such things, is that the kind of content that keeps sites like Nerdfoo and Geekery ticking over, as it were?
Yeah, I mean, the Geeky Area has definitely a point of view. Like, we're mostly women and LGBTQ plus, and so our coverage of properties that kind of lean that direction gets a lot of attention because that's our audience. Like, our most popular video on our YouTube channel was last year's Wynonna Earp interviews, or I think it's in the top 5 of our videos, and that's only been there a year, and it's already climbed up to the top 5. Definitely by far the most popular last year. So even though Wynonna Earp is extremely popular, we offer something to our audience that's very specific, the point of view. So that's kind of where our viewership comes from.
Fair enough. In terms of the nerd food then, because you cover all spectrums, gaming, comics, films, television, the works. I mean, where does the majority of your audience come in, and how does that balance with the stuff that you cover?
Well, for Steve and I at Nerd Foo, we started the business based on our love of the things that are shown at SDCC, and we didn't want to change that once we went in as press. So we still focused on the fandoms that we love most. So the Marvel, the Doctor Who, Supernatural is a huge one for us. And we didn't want to alter that. So we just kept covering the exact same things we would have shared on our personal accounts anyway. Only we did a little bit more and made sure to be, on at all times. But getting into Marvel, Hall H has always been a huge hit for us. And Supernatural panel on Sunday and probably Game of Thrones when HBO is there were by far the 2 biggest performers for us.
Was there?
Yeah.
Was there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pain.
Yes, indeed, which we'll get into. Well, let's get into that now then, because obviously we've heard the word this week that HBO will not be bringing Westworld and Game of Thrones this year. A lot of people understandably upset about it, but it's understandable considering the timings. I think Game of Thrones more than Westworld, because we are waiting now until 2019 until that rolls back around again. Westworld, I believe, has that actually been confirmed for a 3rd season yet? I don't think it has.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. No. So I mean,
we all just assume.
Well, I don't know. I mean, considering that only 1 episode out of this particular run has actually gotten people excited, so I think it's gotten everyone's just all like went in take a breath there. Yeah. I said it. All right. Okay. Right. But in terms of what you actually go and check out, then, so what's Tony, when you do get the chance to step away from the very busy Hero Within stand, what do you go and try and check out?
Honestly, it's kind of related to your earlier question that it is kind of less about maybe the specific shows and really about connecting and networking. To me, that's this is beyond just like industry people, but fans and people who are coming for. I get contacted by a lot of people who are coming for the first time, and so it really for me is about just trying to connect with as many people as possible at the show. And there certainly are some like blog content created sort of things that to meet with, as well as a lot of industry and other exhibitors and whatnot. But it really is because it is the super gathering of everyone who I think is important and awesome. I really want to take advantage of that. And so while because we have other writers and whatnot that they sort of attend the different panels, and so for me, the networking is really the most critical part of the 4 days in San Diego.
When people come up to you now, what's the percentage of people that come up to see you because of Hero Within, and what percentage come up to see you because of Crazy for Comic-Con?
That's a good question. As an Asian, I should be better at math at this. I don't know. Maybe certainly after last year, I did notice the significant shift. I mean, I think this year that will be interesting to see. Last year being our first year to exhibits, and I think WonderCon has certainly noticed that it was maybe more like 50-50 for the first time. So yeah, we'll see. And either way, I'm just glad to meet anyone for any reason. So.
Fair enough. Obviously, I do try and keep track on the Friends of Comic-Con forum to check in on the chatter to find out what people are most excited to see at San Diego. I mean, Kevin, what's been the highlights of what people are actually looking forward to, and what they're kind of expecting. Because I think we are expecting a major WB. Well, we are. We're going to get the Aquaman panel certainly, as announced this week. And by the sounds of things, we may also be getting another DC TV presentation with the announcement that Melissa Benoist is taking her time to come to San Diego.
Yeah.
What's been the chatter?
She's actually going to be in New York, not too far away from me, doing Broadway. During her hiatus. So that's actually I would say good for her, because she does have the stage roots. By the way, Westworld was renewed in late May.
There you go.
So I think the wind was taken on the sails with Westworld and the HBO pullout, and then the Marvel pullout, quote unquote. They're saying not Hall H, but who knows? There's always something that could happen that could be really massive that Marvel might pull the plug on and say, hey, we're going to do this. But I think with the announcement of Doctor Who, I think for that big announcement was it Thursday? I think that really picked up steam. So I think a lot of folks are trying to figure out, okay, if we don't have Marvel, what else do we have? There's plenty of other things that you can definitely see. I think this year might be kind of like a weird soft year in terms of media, but definitely Aquaman, in my opinion, also a little known movie that might be coming out a week or so after the con, Mission Impossible. That could also be a big presence there. Paramount can pretty much take over and start doing something and actually do something pretty big for that. They did it for Star Trek, so it might be also pretty good. And then also DC, pretty much on the front of Aquaman. Definitely, they're going to bring the trailer, so they'll get people hyped up about it. I think also the Ben Affleck situation may or may not be confirmed, but we'll see how that goes.
Is most of the chatter that's on the forum, and I'll put this out to all of you as well. I mean, is most of the chatter and the people that are talking to you, is it about the established big tentpole stuff, like your Westworlds that have been running from a season and a bit?
Yeah.
Or are people looking at stuff that's coming down the line which they don't know about? Because at the end of the day, San Diego Comic-Con, the programming, they do try to put new content in front of eyeballs. Yeah. At the end of the day, that's the showcase for new things. But at the end of the day, is that what people are talking about?
I think it's more about the tentpoles. It's Westworld. There was a lot of folks waiting to figure out, okay, what are the plans so they can figure out for the offsite, because everyone loved the Westworld offsite. So yeah. I think with HBO deciding, they made a good call. It's scheduling, so sometimes it happens. I think a lot of folks were a little depressed, but nothing really new. But I do have to say one thing though. It kind of freaked me out this week, which was pretty good. The Nun. I saw the trailer for The Nun, and it got me excited. So there's something new to look forward to. So they can definitely, WB can start showing out some other things to kind of get folks away from some of the tent poles. And HBO also announced that they're going to have their prequel to
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, sorry. Which that's a great announcement. However, since they pulled out of SDCC, therefore we don't have much information yet.
Yeah.
And I think, it's also been such a different year, because normally we're all anticipating like massive Marvel news to drop, and I think we've been for many years have been sort of crafting our schedule and sort of coverage around that. And we never know.
We've kind of been programmed to as well.
Yeah. We're Marvel zombies, right? And so, and you never know. I mean, you never know till you never know. I mean, anything can happen at the show, and you have to leave room to be surprised at San Diego. But I think without sort of focusing on that, and it really leaves it wide open for a lot of these, not smaller shows, but still very popular shows to sort of step in. And it certainly leaves room for Warner Brothers to make a big splash with Wonder Woman, Shazam, as well as with Aquaman. So, but yeah, it's a little bit weird not kind of anticipating something huge coming from the Marvel camp.
Yeah. You got Petco. You got the I would say that big area in the back of the convention center. There is potential for a surprise or two. You just don't know. And that's really where the anticipation is. You try to figure out, okay, when is there going to be a special announcement, for that? And that's, I think my roommates basically were all about for the last few years, ever since I started coming to San Diego Comic-Con, Marvel. Saturday is my Marvel day. Marvel. Now Marvel's out officially for Hall H. There's, they're kind of, it's muted, but there's still an opportunity for something else.
Has anyone heard anything about Star Wars? Anything about Star Wars? Anybody?
Not a word.
Nothing.
No.
After, I think they might decide to go a little soft for a little while after the cool reception to Solo, which I saw yesterday. And actually, in my opinion, it was pretty good.
Listen, that whole idea of a cool reception to Solo just baffles me, because if you just took Star Wars off the banner of it and just as a film, we got double thumbs down from Tony.
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 Fair enough.
He didn't like it.
Look at this.
It's okay.
I got my
He brought
Star Wars
props.
shirt on today.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it as a film. I thought it absolutely held up. But I mean, I'm curious about stuff like I say, things that I discover at San Diego Comic-Con, and they've even done it in Hall H as well, in terms of stuff like some of the legendary films, when they've done some stuff at Hall H last year, when Matt, oh good God, why have I completely forgotten his name? Matt from Doctor Who.
Matt Smith,
of course. He released two films, and it might have been not last year before. There was a kind of zombie film,
Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies.
And then there was another zombie film that he was just there was a bunch of new stuff, and you kind of get, when I get excited when I'm being shown something new. I want to see stuff about Mortal Engines. I think that's going to be
that trailer looks fantastic.
Trailer looks amazing.
Weaving, come on, you got to give that one a shot.
Absolutely. I could even say The Spy Who Dumped Me, which is the new film that's I think one or two people are paying attention to. Even The Equalizer 2. If they brought
Denzel
Washington, my God, that would just be incredible.
They did promote Equalizer 2 on the Hard Rock a couple of years back. The movie was fantastic. They did bring Denzel a few years ago for, I forgot the name of the movie, where I think it was with Mila Kunis a few years back, and he actually did signings. But Equalizer 2, it looks fantastic. So,
because at San Diego Comic-Con, they could announce that it is actually part in the John Wick universe and just make it official. That's what they could do. No, okay, maybe not.
And they're filming John Wick 3 right now in New York
City. Right at the end, the two of them on screen, just it's the same universe. There you go, sorted.
Aren't they about to start filming on Bill and Ted 3 also?
Absolutely. Yep. I mean, that's the kind of thing I'm interested in. I mean, I don't know if there's been much chatter then. Are these the kind of questions that people are putting to you about what we could be seeing?
Right now, my blog's trying to speculate on what might be coming, and like we're looking, because we're primarily TV, though we do cover everything.
Okay, then go for it. TV.
And so we're looking at things that are coming out, and there's not many announcements right now. I'm trying to remember. There's a show with Alex Kingston that's coming out on Sky, I think, in the UK.
Sky in the UK, yeah. Witches.
Yeah, Discovery of Witches. And like I'm hoping that shows up, but that's really the only new show that I have my eye on. Not a lot on the roster coming our way, at least the things that I've looked into. So
are we now at a point where studios are struggling to make this kind of commitment? And they're kind of waiting for a show to get any kind of traction before they then really invest behind it. Does that make sense?
Well, making the trip is sometimes a financial decision, right? They had a small panel and press room for Mr. Mercedes, which was on the Audience Network here in the States, and it was a fantastic series. And you got mostly major hitters that showed up for the panel and the press rooms, except for Mr. Gleason. But it was a great series. I watched it every single week. It was totally engaging. Those type of things, you have a great opportunity to check out.
I've always wondered about the return on investment for these companies and how they measure it. At the end of the day, it's probably a room full of suits deciding whether or not to spend $500,000 to send, an entire booth or even more, all the actors. And they're probably going to end up saying something like, let's stick with the things we know that work and let's slap some banners on the hotels across the street for the rest of it.
A lot of it too is while we think about and plan about Comic-Con year round, honestly, a lot of it is a game time decision. I mean, a lot of these companies, even big studios, they do make the decision as they kind of approach the show based on where the market's at, where the budget is, and then typically, being a few weeks out is when a lot of the major decisions are made. So you still never know. I mean, a lot of things can change, and a lot of shows can pop up on the radar in the last kind of the 11th hour.
Yep. I'm also looking at the companies that do spend a lot of money. I mean, I know that there are a couple of convention organizers and talent people from other conventions that don't necessarily go into the convention hall, but do come into town to see how much money is being spent by the companies. And when you see Netflix and when you see especially Amazon Prime spending a shit ton of cash. I mean, the amount of money they spent on the tick last year was just phenomenal. And then you kind of then have to balance against the response, and which is why I'm curious about the whole business with HBO, because they did spend all that money on that Westworld experience.
And that actually brings up a point that I've been kind of discussing with some friends, is with Marvel pulling out and HBO pulling out, I think it's a really good time for Netflix and Amazon and the online streaming services to increase their presence. And I'm kind of rooting for that, because there's a lot of good content, especially with online streaming services snatching up network shows that have been canceled.
Like Lucifer.
And The Expanse.
Like The Expanse.
You see,
time for streaming to step in.
If Firefly had been running today,
right? Firefly would be on Netflix or something.
Incredible. Okay, so let's talk about what we do know about San Diego Comic-Con, and certainly about the news about this week, about the crazy 36 hours that took place in regards to the Doctor Who panel. This was an announcement that got put out by BBC America, that it's going to be an historic panel for Doctor Who. It's the first time that they'll be bringing a Doctor to the stage before she's even been seen on screen. So we've got Jodie Whittaker, who's going to be coming along, as well as two other cast members. We've got Chris Chibnall, who's the executive producer. No, he's the showrunner, and then we've got the executive producer as well. They, apart from, I'd say, Jodie Whittaker, they're all kind of unknown quantities, so they do have a case to sell, and they've got something they've got to really make an impression with. And then someone was announced to their moderator, and not that long after, a post went up from a previous significant other. Let's talk about it, because it does affect San Diego Comic-Con, not just for this panel, but also for the tenor of San Diego Comic-Con, considering how much presence usually Chris Hardwick has. Tony, I mean, what's been your take on the development of the last 3 days, especially now we've had the announcement that he's stepped back from his panel hosting duties?
Yeah, I mean, I think Chris Hardwick has had a huge impact. I think he really came to the spotlight during the rise of even San Diego Comic-Con. They kind of grew up together in the past like 5 or 6 years, and for many of us, Chris was a hero role model, as not only just a podcaster and content creator, but then also as a Comic-Con host, and then a creator of his own company and the CEO and all that. So I think it really hit all of us hard, as really the events of the past couple of years of Me Too, and really as we see more and more prominent and influential leaders can be called out on their actions. And in some ways you kind of, and I think we all know that within the nerd community that a lot of that shenanigans goes on as well, but you kind of hope that your heroes are immune to that, and clearly they're not. And I know that the information that Chloe Dykstra put out and all that, there's still a lot of like he said, she said, and whatnot going on. So we can't really get into what for sure is going on. But it really is it's really unfortunate to see that really on the eve of Comic-Con, because it certainly is going to I think we mourn as a community for what Chloe has been through, but then we also, it's a bummer to see someone that has been a hero to many of us go through basically an implosion of his career. And so like we talked about with Marvel being such a tentpole year after year, really Chris has been a huge part of the Comic-Con experience, certainly in Hall H. And so again, leaving a void. And so it'll be interesting to see how studios and Comic-Con respond to that. But yeah, tough. I think it's been tough, and it's been, as we've seen with various allegations, it really invites a spectrum of opinions from fans and industry people alike. And so some of those opinions are inspiring, some of them are very upsetting, and it's a very emotional and complex sort of situation right now.
I think we could even go a little bit further afield, away from the sphere of influence of Chris Hardwick in 2018, because obviously he founded Nerdist. His shadow still looms large over that company, even though he hasn't been involved for a couple of years. Obviously, all of those panels, which they are going to be hosting, of which there are a fair few that Nerdist put on, and Geek and Sundry as well, the conversation is going to be about Chris. Is it now a case of, was the announcement that HBO put out, AMC put out, was it a case of they're attempting to kind of stem the tide, to try and allow the content that is going to be at San Diego Comic-Con to move forward? We'll go with Aaron. What do you think, sir?
I think there is something to that because of the whole Me Too movement. I mean, as far as my perspective, there was that little blurb that on the Nerdist website that I remember that Chris created this many-headed Hydra, right? And so from the perspective of me and fans of his, and just the whole nerd community in general, if you remember the story of the Hydra, how Hercules and Aeolus were the heroes who tried to take down the Hydra, and women have a Herculean they have a hard time in the industry trying to make a name for themselves already. So we as men have to be the Aeolus to their Hercules, to try and fight this many-headed Hydra that is sort of, keeping a lot of, women with a lot of talent down. So, I think there is something to, HBO and AMC pulling back their, pulling the reins of Chris Hardwick. Maybe they know something that we don't, but at any rate, it is a cascading effect from the Me Too movement.
I'm going to turn to Chris, because you've met the guy. You've obviously had him visiting the Funko HQ. You had the Chris Hardwick figure that was. What's been the response to Funko? I'm trying to work out the domino effect, because this really has been a case of a single post which has just snowballed and affects so many corners of what we all see at San Diego Comic-Con. What's been I know there's been a couple of comments about pulling the Chris Hardwick figure. Would it even go that far?
I don't know. I really can't comment directly for Funko on this. We were out of the office while this was going on for E3, and
this definitely happened while you were out of contact.
Right. I personally, it hit me pretty hard to read this. Again, they are allegations. I'll say that. I'm not taking sides on either way, but reading about it definitely hit me hard. It's tough to read. It's tough to think about. I honestly just kind of wanted to go home and cry in the middle of the day on Friday when I read about it. And I don't know, it's going to be an interesting time at San Diego with the shift and him not being a part of it, because for the last 5 years when I've gone, that's been a big part of it, is seeing him in Hall H and going off site to the Nerdist podcast. And I don't know, it's going to be different.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a shift in tone. Certainly, Stephanie. I mean, I've been excited by a couple of other stories that have kind of offset the news that we've had from Chris Hardwick. I mean, Pina Toprak being signed as the MCU's first female composer, and I'd like to see her showing up at San Diego Comic-Con. I think that would be a way for the Me Too movement and also female empowerment in the industry to be represented. Is this something that San Diego Comic-Con can recover from in such a short period of time?
Give me a second.
I think so. I mean, it's a bad time. It came out 34 days before the convention, and my first thought was the Doctor Who panel, and I wrote an article very quickly about that because the Doctor Who panel needs to be about this historic moment in geek culture where we have the first woman Doctor, and that's what the panel should be about. Not have this dark cloud over it, of someone who has been accused of these acts. Again, I'm not here to talk about whether or not he did it, but it's going to be a dark cloud regardless. And within 24 hours of me writing that article, he pulled out. So thankfully now that panel can get back on track about what it needs to be about. And my personal feeling is that they should replace him with like a significant woman in Doctor Who. It's a good opportunity to do that.
ASAFP.
Yeah, Georgia Tennant, maybe.
That would be good. I mean, I've seen Nicole Brown on a Fox panel. They did a press thing for The Walking Dead. She can certainly hold her own as a moderator. Yes. She knows how to handle a crowd. She has she's personable, as everyone knows. So I think she would be good. I'm just wondering if because she works well with stuff that she knows. She knows Walking Dead. She's a fan of the show. I'm wondering how she would work with something she may not be too familiar with. I don't know how familiar with Doctor Who she is. But no, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think it is a case of they need to announce something tomorrow morning or tonight or while we're on air.
Suddenly we have a guest here. This is Bruce Wayne, my cat. Sorry.
There's the new panel host for Doctor Who.
He should host the panel. Hi. Sorry.
No, that makes sense. I mean, yourself, Tony, when it comes to the approach of Doctor Who, then, I mean, what's your take on it, especially when it comes to how they need to make an impression at this particular show? What's been what was your immediate thoughts about the Doctor Who panel?
Yeah. You know, I as a huge Doctor
Who fan,
it's one of those things that I think what I've been kind of bummed about is to see there's been a real lack of energy and momentum over the past couple of years, and I love Peter Capaldi and I love Doctor Who, but for whatever reason, the past kind of couple of years, we've just not seen the amount of energy, enthusiasm, and the cosplay and all that stuff as much as we have. And I think I'm part of it personally. I just think that the series and show was in need of a kind of a radical sort of makeover, and we got it now. And so I think this is a huge opportunity to kind of make a new impression, to bring in new fans. Certainly in light of everything that we just talked about a few minutes ago with Chris, I think this is a great opportunity to that this is more than just a Doctor, but really is a huge step for mankind and womankind and all kind in general, to be able to make a statement that the Doctor is more than just about a certain gender, but really is about for all people. And I think that this is I think this will be a like you said, because it's the first time we're seeing a Doctor before on screen. That Hall H panel on Sunday with Doctor Who has not been like the past couple of years. You've been able to get into it relatively easily. I mean, you don't have to wait outside all night long or anything like that. I think last year I just walked in on it. So I think that will change this year. I think that there'll actually be we'll see a new crowd, a new generation, a new demographic in the room. And I think it's going to be really exciting. So I'm pumped. I think that it might be possibly one of my most anticipated panels of the week.
I mean, I would put you forward as a panel host for this. Two things though. Two things. Number one, you're going to be busy on the Hero Within booth, and number two, I don't know how eager you would be about stepping in front of a Doctor Who panel again. Ever since that introduction, where if anyone's seen it on YouTube, it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Having someone come out and go, "Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to you the biggest Doctor Who fan here." At which point, 4,500 people just went, "Excuse me? I beg your pardon." Yeah. And you could you saw Tony's face go, "You threw me so hard under the bus there, you son of a bitch."
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite pieces of YouTube. It's brilliant. Yeah. But no, it is a case of finding someone for that, and I do think they need to announce it ASAP. Okay, I don't know what else we can kind of talk about this topic really, because it is at the moment. I think that the fact that it's happened so fast as well, we're all kind of being blindsided by the fact that we've gone from panel announcement, a post on so like a sliver of the internet at 2 o'clock in the morning, to Hollywood Reporter, Variety headlines, to it still being a major trending thing, and it's just happened within 3 days. It's just been incredible. So at the end of the day, to be honest, I think the next step is going to be the lawyers, and then things will really get messy, and that's where we.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, go on.
I did. Yeah, I just wanted to add in there that while this has been it's upsetting for to people and fans from regards to your perspective, I think the one good thing about it is that we'll go into Comic-Con with something significant to talk about, and more than just like what's cool about TV shows and movies and exclusives. I think that the Me Too and harassment and equality, all that stuff is it's important for us to engage in as a nerd community, and it's easy to sort of insulate and to sort of focus on pop culture. But I think within that, this creates an opportunity for us to have like conversations of value and really like really talk about, hey, how did it affect you? What do you think about it? How are you impacted? To have like meaningful conversations throughout the week. And so, so while it's a bummer that what was announced and how it's going down and whatever, I think the important part is that as a fan community, we can all have like, hey, what did you think about what just happened? And then that turn into like a conversation that helps change people.
Yeah, it galvanizes the topic at such a high profile event. No, yeah, okay.
And I just want to say, like, as like the only woman here right now. But I do feel supported largely by the blogging community and the San Diego Comic-Con community. Like, you all have been great. I've gotten some nasty comments on Twitter, but as a whole, the San Diego Comic-Con going community has been generally positive about this. So just thank you to the wider community for dealing with this well.
I go along with that.
It could have been bad.
No, it could have. I mean, I've kind of been looking at a bit, like I say, a little bit further afield than the Comic-Con audience. And certainly, I posted a GIF this morning of a compass going in various circles as various kind of fingers get pointed. But yeah, I think for the San Diego Comic-Con, it's a very, like as Tony says, it's a field of opportunity, but it's got to happen quickly. It's got to be handled well, and it's got to be handled right. And I'm trying to work out if it's going to be the networks that handle it right, if it's going to be the convention itself, it's going to be CCI that handles it right, or it's going to be us as the attendees. And that's where I think is going to be the interesting conversation. Okay.
A combination of everybody as a whole, just trying to be kind to each other. I put out a couple of GIFs on my own Twitter for the last few weeks, just in general. Just be kind. That's all what we look for. That's the last 2 words of Peter Capaldi. As is, going back to Doctor Who, that's his last 2 words before he regenerated into Jodie Whittaker. And just be kind.
What I think also interesting is that all these shows that we love and we admire is largely kind of you know, they paint pictures of the alternative future, and they like things like Star Trek, where they cast vision for how we should be as a community. And I was thinking of just how a few years ago, how cosplay is not consent, you know, how that sort of sprung out from Comic-Cons, and really that was in some ways a predecessor to the Me Too, that idea that women are not objects and they're not there for your, you know, personal enjoyments and all that sort of thing. And so I think it's cool that Comic-Con is a place that we can have a voice in culture, and this is just another opportunity to make a statement.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I had something in mind then, and it's completely gone. So that gives you an idea of just how kind of the conversation. I think it's all about positivity, and I think also the fact that the shows that we're seeing are reflecting that, like Tony says, maybe also might reflect on why the numbers on The Walking Dead might be down. I think people want to see a bit more optimism now, perhaps. So who knows? Let's go a couple of comments on the Q&A, because we haven't dived into these for a couple yet. Andrew Dickinson, Craig Ferguson probably has had a few phone calls lately. Very, very possible. One of the biggest Doctor Who fans out there. Jennifer Musquith, Tony gives me hope for the future of nerd culture. Well, that we knew anyway. We knew that anyway. Good God, I mean, this is not news. Not news. We've got one or two people who are sharing some personal stories. They are talking about how this has brought up a lot of things that have happened in their lives, and how this could really it really kind of brings home, when you go to San Diego Comic-Con, as something as a state of escape, that this has possibly brought something a little bit too close to home. Let's have a look. We've got Super Catchick, the form of manipulation when an abuser makes the victim feel like they're crazy or question the reality of what that happened. At this point, like everyone's saying, it is very much he said, she said. So we are waiting. Should we be waiting on a response at this point, or is it really down to those two to kind of hash it out? Although a lot of people are talking about other things to enjoy at San Diego Comic-Con beyond the convention itself. Subtle segue to offsites, and we have got one or two people who are asking, and I don't want to put him on the spot, but Tony, either Hero Within party or indeed a bloggers party, what's happening, man?
Yes. No, we certainly have plans. Yeah, we certainly have plans, and so the answer to those two questions should be coming out very soon. So
excellent stuff.
That's all I can say. Yeah.
Good answer.
Good answer. No. If you want to see Olympic level dodging, so Chris, I believe the comment was that once E3 is out of the way, let's get E3 done, and then we can start looking at Funko exclusives. But are we looking to Monday? Are we talking this week?
I can confirm soon. I can confirm that there will be exclusives. That's about as far as I can go now.
Can you confirm this week? Can you confirm tomorrow?
I cannot.
Within the next 31 days.
Yes, that I can guarantee. Prior to the
31 days
at the convention center, you will know what will be on the shelves.
Wow. Because, I mean, I think the reason why a lot of people are excited about the Funko exclusives, and why I'm already starting to feel calluses in my hand, is because at the end of the day, you did announce, or Funko announced, that there were going to be a record number of exclusives available at San Diego. And last year, you started announcing them last week. The window's getting shorter, man. It's very short.
As we responded to people last week, and when they were asking that question, because we get a lot during our Q&A, when are we going to see it? You know, if you go back over the last 5 years, we've jumped around on when those announcements are, and it really is about, let's get that one thing done, wrapped up and behind us, and move on to the next thing. And like you said, now that E3 is over, we're one step closer. So soon.
Fair enough. I don't want to talk about Funko. Let's talk about other companies out there. Let's talk about to Chris about the exclusives portal that's been posted up on by CCI, and how that works in terms of. I mean, we've seen the first exclusives go up, and there has been both positive and negative aspects in that fans haven't been able to dedicate themselves to this particular exclusive, the Mondo fans, but anyone who has got a badge has been able to apply. I'm not going to point at Funko because I don't know that you know that you're not going to announce if it's going to be as part of the exclusive portal. But I'm certain that you guys have been having conversations about the pros and cons of that. What's been your thoughts on it?
Personally, not representing Funko on this. I think show exclusives are a good thing, and they don't necessarily need to be shared outside the show. I know the traditional Mondo fans, and I am one. I've been to MondoCon for the last 3 years. There is something about being able to have that access to something that's normally so hard to get. I mean, if you try to order posters on Mondo, they're usually gone in seconds. That's one of the reasons I travel to that show every year is because, hey, I can actually walk into this room and buy several. So I think they feel a little slighted in the fact that they don't have access, but look at all the people that do, who pay all the money to travel to go to San Diego Comic-Con. I really like the fact that there are those that you can only get there. As a fan, those are the ones I've usually gone after because they are hard to get, and there's a sense of accomplishment when you do get it. So to everyone who was able to put in their name in the hat to buy that Mondo poster, awesome. Congratulations. I hope you get it.
It also kind of takes people away from the lines because that has been CCI's thing for years. They want the lines. They would love no lines at all for Hall H, for any of it. They would just love no lines at all because it just bogs everything down. Right. Could we see, or do you feel that we could see someone like Hasbro taking part in the exclusives portal, or is that too big a monster to put onto CCI's shoulders?
I personally don't know. I mean, I'm sure they're having those conversations as well. This just opens up a new avenue. I have a feeling companies like that will probably test that process at some point with maybe one or two to see how it goes. I mean, it's there now. Why not? Why not give it a try?
Excellent stuff. Good answer as well. You see, I'm transposing one or 2 points in there. I mean, what's everyone else been talking about this, and what's everyone else's thought? I mean, Stephanie, you look like you had something to say.
Yeah, a lot of the chatter in my circles is how it's only available for regular badge types. At least the Mondo print was. So we're kind of worried that everything's going to be only available for badge types. I mean, I'm not usually an exclusives person, except for the occasional Funko Pop, but
hint, hint.
But a lot of people that I know are, and now that they're pressed, they can't get access to them, at least what we know so far. So I'm looking forward to seeing if the other ones will be available.
Anything that stops a retailer 5 minutes before the doors open, skipping off his booth to get into a position to jump in a line as the doors open, anything that stops that, I am more than happy with, because that has just been the absolute bugbear for many years. Okay, that's all well and good. I mean, is there anything else that anyone wants to bring up in terms of how they approach Comic-Con as bloggers now? I mean, I think some people think that people, certainly those who go as press, we get jumped to the front of the lines, we get some kind of specialist treatment. I mean, I know that we get a room which barely can sometimes find a seat in, where we can sit down and do some typing if we needs be. But
there's a room.
There is a room.
I've never been to the room.
I think you're making this up, man.
Yeah. Hey, Mark.
The Unofficial Blog wrote a nice article which broke down the advantages. I would say each badge class and the advantages or supposed myths around the access badges have. And it was a very good article. I would encourage everyone to take a look at it. At the end of the day, we as press pretty much don't get anything in addition to it. We have to work at it. Exhibitors may have some quote unquote additional advantage, but it's only because let's just say that drawing might be on that particular floor, but at the end of the day, you may have to still wait online. And then for moderators, which, Leonard, you were one of them, and as well as Tony, you were moderators, so you kind of know what advantage you may have had as a moderator. It does not really get you much more. Security pretty much treats you as a body, and that's it. My whole thing about the line situation is I think CCI needs to probably take a good, strong look at it. And work with the folks, maybe not have all the drawings at 8 o'clock in the morning before, because that really is what exacerbated the whole line situation. Do the drawings like they did 4 or 5 years ago when it was throughout the day. That splits the crowd up. That cuts down all line camping. Fair
enough. I mean, certainly when it comes to like the press rooms that are held at the Hilton Bayfront, that makes it a totally different event for me. That you get to sit in the press room and sit across a celebrity from a show and post the same thing that 15 other sites are going to be posting up ASAP. But it's always fun to kind of approach that. I mean, Tony and Chris, I mean, do you miss the whole business of doing press, or is it too much of a chore?
I certainly do. Last year, I mean, first of all, I'm not complaining. I love my job, right? But I was in the booth on Sunday stacking pops and selling to people, and I could hear Carry On My Wayward Son through the wall at the side of the booth, and I just stopped and put my hand on the wall and kind of absorbed it for a minute. It was like, man, this is the first time I've missed seeing the boys from Supernatural up there on Sunday. So, there's trade-offs for sure. But on the flip side, I get to meet with so many awesome fans that come through the booth, and they're hyped to come through and get those exclusives and to talk nerd. And I've just swapped from attendee to press to exhibitor, and everyone has had its pluses and minuses, but always been fun.
Tony?
Yeah, I mean, a lot very similar sentiments as Chris. But this is what, year 12, 13 for me. So to be able to like have like different types of experiences, I think is really important. And I'm fortunate that I have a great team that I'm working with, and I got to put the pressure to let them do their jobs. So yeah, I certainly miss, like Chris said, just a lot of the same type of stuff. But also, I think it's important to have new experiences at Comic-Con. I think just to go and have the same thing over and over again, I think that just limits the possibilities. And so to go, I think I was told unofficially that I have the single most badge types that one is allowed to have, from volunteering to staff, press, pro, exhibitor, a couple others underneath there. And so
I'm working on exhibitor. That's the only one. That's the only one I think I'm sure.
I think the only one I'm lacking right now is the featured guest, and so I think that's going to be a long time until that comes around. But the point being is that the beauty of Comic-Con is that you're allowed opportunity that you're never allowed throughout the rest of the year. So take advantage of that. Do different things. Try different things. Don't put yourself in a box. And like Aaron said, hey, he jumped in there and kind of became an exhibitor, and he's exhibiting this year. And a lot of us were once fans, now we're press. Some of us are like Leonard, hosting panels. And so you have to take advantage of Comic-Con and do things that you've never done before, and it'll open up all kinds of doors. So yes, I do miss the press stuff, but I love the adventure that Comic-Con has to offer too.
Okay. I mean, I think we'll take that from yourself as your, because I was going to then ask down the line to kind of wrap up our time with you before I want to try and keep Aaron on for a little while longer, and also want to talk to Kevin as well. But we'll let the other three of you get off and enjoy the rest of your day and your Father's Day. But we'll kind of take from that line, Tony, the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time attendee of Comic-Con. That's yours. Take advantage of it, and not only as someone who's going as press or just a general attendee, just go and grab the convention by the reins. I'm guessing is to paraphrase what you said.
Yeah, in a very consensual way. Okay. No. No, we're not grabbing.
Okay.
Don't have anything uninvited. So
this is going to be in 36 hours. In 36 hours, my life is going to be totally different.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you said it there, is that take advantage of it, try things, do things, don't be scared, and you have to hold your Comic-Con with an open hand. I mean, in the sense that like you never know what's going to happen, so don't go in with like crazy unrealistic expectations, but you win some, you lose some, and some days by the hour is awesome, and some is like not so awesome. And so, I think the people who go in thinking that I have to have that one exclusive or see that one panel or go to that one event, when you're sort of like that locked in, then you kind of set yourself up for disappointment. So, go in and go with the flow and have fun, and most importantly, meet as many people as possible. And I think, while the shows and exclusives come and go, the relationships are what carries on throughout the year. So make a ton of friends and meet a lot of people. And that's where I think the real sort of enjoyment lasts way after the show is done.
This is where I now risk every single one of the people I'm on this panel to turn around and go, what he said. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, Stephanie, what advice would you give to somebody going to not only as a first timer, just generally as advice?
Well, not exactly what he said, but similar.
Go for it.
But every single year I've been going for 7 years now. Every single year that I've gone, something has fallen through, and that's okay. Like I missed this panel, or I missed, that event that I wanted to go to, and I've never once felt like, that ruined Comic-Con ever, because there's so much happening. So if you miss something, it's not the end of the world, because there's so much going on. Like I've never regretted it. So
cool. I mean, I missed a panel last year, and I ran to try and catch a opportunity to speak to one of the guests on the panel, and I missed them. They disappeared, and I ended up finding the pinball room. Did anyone find this thing? This was amazing. A room dedicated to pinball machines. I was in heaven for half an hour. It was fantastic. So no, I totally get what you're saying there. Fantastic. Chris, advice that you would give to someone going to Comic-Con?
One thing we tell everybody on the Nerd Foo podcast repeatedly is do your research. That doesn't mean set a plan in stone, like you guys are saying, but definitely know what's going on. One thing I hear constantly at all cons from the exhibitor side is, I didn't know that. Insert here. Well, all this information is pretty readily available online. So as we approach this final 30, however many days going into it, be doing your research, be following the blogs, be listening to the cup of teas, be listening to podcasts, do everything you can to be in the know, so you have a basic outline for how your con's going to go. But have some chill, like you're saying. Be ready to go do some other things. I personally have waited in line 17 hours for a DC panel I didn't get into. 2 nights in a row, over 9 hours for a Funko booth that I didn't get into. And you know what I did? I showered and then went back out there and had a great time, because like Stephanie just said, there's so much going on. Why spend your time upset? Just go out and enjoy it.
Yeah. So listeners, Meg on the chat room saying, shower a lot.
Most important advice.
And it's an evergreen. It almost doesn't need to be said, but Karen's session is absolutely right. Comfortable shoes and comfortable backpack. Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Right. And I think we'll go with Chris. Oh, no, we've done Chris. Kevin, what would you say for yourself the best piece of advice?
Have plan A and plan B and a plan C for the con. Pretty much similar to what everyone says down the line. I always try to have multiple plans. Be flexible. Enjoy yourself. Try to get some sleep, because you're not going to get any. And just enjoy the atmosphere. San Diego Comic-Con is pretty much the one place I couldn't even describe in words sometimes how electric that environment is. It is so much fun. I recommend it to everyone to try at least once. I'm addicted. And even with the news, I think, Leonard, going back to your point, yes, the tent poles might not be there, but there's always something else new to try. So give something else a shot. So let's see what happens.
Excellent stuff. Right, I'm going to let three people go, but first I want to find out and just say thank you very much indeed, and find out where they can be followed. Tony, all the best to you for San Diego Comic-Con 2018. I'm certain that this year may be the year I actually get to the Hero Within booth. What are the odds? What are the odds? I'm never going to be able to. Well, I won't be able to afford this year to buy anything, but I'll have a look. So, where can people find you online to keep a track on what Hero Within is going to be up to this year?
Oh, yeah, you can follow us at herewithinstore.com as well as on social media. We're going to be making a ton of announcements this month. The reason why we're still holding some information back is that we really feel like that we need to be just a little bit closer to the convention to make all of our big announcements. But we have a couple events that we'll be announcing, several exclusives that we're going to be announcing, as well as some special appearances that we're going to be announcing throughout the week. So a lot of news that we're going to be breaking. And we're going to be at booth 2047, which is going to be just sort of next to Sideshow Collectibles. And so we're going to be in a really great spot.
Nice.
And for Crazy for Comic-Con, definitely follow on my personal account at Crazy for the number 4 Comic-Con. And our team's going to be posting all kinds of great information. And yeah, so you can find me there.
Excellent stuff. Thank you very much indeed, Tony. Stephanie, I know that you're going to be incredibly busy over the next couple of weeks. But where can people follow yourself and also follow the geekery?
Yeah, so my blog, The Geekiary, it's The Geekiary on pretty much everything. So Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Tumblr, and the website, thegeekiary.com. Me personally, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at angel_ponders. That's my personal account. And both of them will have a lot of San Diego Comic-Con content. So I've got a queue for the Geekiary set up for San Diego Comic-Con content for the next 30 days. So lots of stuff coming there.
I can imagine you're like myself on the mobile version of Twitter. You've got the little 3 dots where you can go to bouncing between accounts, left, right. Yeah, I can imagine you're just like me on that one. And for yourself, Chris, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Where can people follow you? And indeed, where can people get the first piece of news about the Funko exclusives being announced tomorrow?
I'm going to ignore that last part, but you can definitely follow The Nerd Foo on all channels: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Of course, our blog is thenerdfoo.com. Personally, on Twitter, I am CS_Sully, CSSULLY. And of course, please follow all the Funko handles for that news when it drops soon. We are Original Funko on all channels.
Excellent stuff. Tony, Stephanie, Chris, thank you so much indeed. And enjoy the rest of your Sunday, guys.
Thank you.
Happy Father's Day. Bye.
Take care. Brilliant. Right. Now they're gone, we can talk about them behind their back. We can. The reason why I want to keep Aaron on for a little while longer is I want to talk very quickly about Comic-Con Fit. We've talked about how, I mean, the pair of you are both advocates for it, but just to see where we are at the moment, and also with 4 weeks to go, what preparations we can be taking at this point. Because I know that you're just starting to get into ramping up your sort of like trail walking and going into that type of
Oh my goodness, the trail walking.
Yeah, I mean, what can you give us?
I was gonna say Comic-Con Fit for my answer, in terms of what my recommendations for people going to Comic-Con. But I'm glad I'm able to sort of promote Comic-Con Fit because it's grown to such it's an awesome community, and I value everyone who takes part in it, like Kevin. It just helps everybody stay accountable. It helps everybody sort of, get that extra push to, say, maybe I should go for that walk today, or maybe I shouldn't eat that. Or maybe, instead of doing something tomorrow, I'll do it today. So anything that we can do to help each other get to that next level so we can better enjoy our Comic-Con experience, I think that's even more of a positive thing to do. In terms of ramping up for Comic-Con Fit for Comic-Con, there's pretty much like you said, there's 4 weeks left. I'm upping my trail walking. I'm walking more hills. I'm doing more stairs. Just because just walking regularly on a treadmill or on a flat surface isn't much of a challenge sometimes. But at the same time, I'm trying to condition my legs and my feet for the constant punishment that it'll take at the con, and also breaking in some shoes. So that's one important thing. Don't think buying you good pair of shoes and then not breaking them in before Comic-Con.
Yeah. Don't do what somebody who shall remain nameless has done now for two years on the trot. Don't buy your trainers or shoes in San Diego. Don't do that. What the hell was I thinking? Basically, I took my comfortable shoes with me both years. The 2 years ago, we went to San Diego Zoo, and that walking around that particular venue destroyed my shoes. So I bought some brand new shoes, and I bought brand new shoes 2 days before Comic-Con. Oh my God, so much pain. Yeah, that was not fun. Get your shoes out and start breaking them in now. You're absolutely right. Okay. In terms of diet, where can we be looking at the moment? I mean, is it now a case of can we start carving up to kind of start building up energy storage for the convention at this point?
I wouldn't say carving it up, right?
That's right. Yeah.
No, I mean, if it all depends on where you are, physically and what kind of body type you are. If you're somebody if there's somebody out there who's in the gym constantly and they expend a massive amount of energy and they do multiple hours of workouts during the day, of course they need their energy stores. But for someone like me, I can only talk about my personal experience. I'm starting to, I've been trying to lean up for the last month or two. So that means I have been starting to limit my carbs, and also trying to, I've been trying to be a better eater. I've been trying to eat more vegetables, lean meats, and it's kind of tough because I work long hours, and sometimes when I get out of work, I get my friends saying, "Hey, you want to hang out, have a late dinner at like 10 o'clock at night," and usually it involves soju and beer. So sometimes I have to limit myself, even though I don't want to, because I'm just hanging out with the guys and my friends. But you do need to take some personal responsibility and watch yourself and be vigilant, because you can derail some of the progress that you've made if a few weekends here and there if you're not careful. I'm sure Kevin can give some more wise advice. Kevin.
Look at your water intake. That's always key. I would say find a good balance in terms of food, where if it's not just about carb loading or whatever it is, but if you have some lean meat, some chicken, a little bit of steak, the lean cuts. Everyone can see me, right?
Yeah,
I can see it.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So basically, it's about that right now. I think going into the last month for me, I'm kind of doing a little bit more cardio, trying to do a little bit more on the working on the trouble spots, because this year I have not been able to really exercise like I really wanted to. So this year I'm coming in a little bit heavier than in prior years, but I'm hoping to make that up in the next 4 weeks. But set yourself goals. If you have one day where you say, okay, look, I'm going to go have a meal out with some friends and such, that's your one day you can actually have a quote unquote cheat day. So try it out. It's going to be crazy during the con, so just get yourself prepared mentally in what you think you may be eating. But also, of course, I always say watch your water intake. You do not want to, in that hot San Diego sun, have any type of dehydration issues. So you want to have a little bit of a Powerade, a Gatorade in your room, a protein bar, a protein shake, something like that to help get that nourishment back into your body.
I mean, I often do recommend the filter bottles. If anything, then you can fill them up at water stations that are around the convention center. Maybe even from the tap from the restroom. Listen, with somebody who has no pride at all, I'm more than happy to do that. But if I use a filter bottle, I'm kind of happy with it. But hydrating is certainly in San Diego is definitely on the cards. Okay.
One thing I want to sort of add is last week or a couple weeks ago, I sort of experimented because I'm trying to save money for Comic-Con, like many of us are trying to do. And in terms of eating and eating out, I purposely tried to budget to see if I could to see if I could eat for a whole week and cook, shopping, and only spend $50 for the whole week. And I was able to do it. So I was able to cook all my meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for $50 for 1 week. So I'm gonna try and do that a few more times to see if I could, save more money, because I do want to, spend some and buy a few things here at Comic-Con this year, especially at Hero Within, and a few other, booths that I'm friendly with. So because I want to support them.
Save some money for
Well,
sideshow.
Well, if I do sideshow, I may have to try to do $10 a week. So, but
yeah.
So just a little advice. It is possible to save money for Comic-Con by not eating out as much and trying to cook a little bit more.
Fair enough. Excellent stuff. Right. Thank you very much indeed for sticking around and talking SDCC Fit with us. Thank you. In terms of yourself and also the Hall H show, I mean, if anyone has been watching Cup of Tea for a while, you know that we are a huge fan of the Hall H show. We love we love what you do. Certainly, I mean, can you talk about the last couple of podcasts, perhaps, and also just let us know where people can find you online?
Sure. Actually, the last 3 podcasts that we had, one was with Ryland Grant. He'll be having a few panels here at San Diego Comic-Con, but he is a writer that comes from a movie writing background, and he's trying to sort of parlay his experience into his first love, comic books. So his name is Ryland Grant. His comic book called Aberrant just came out. It's going to be published. It's published by Action Lab Danger Zone. So it was a pleasure. I'm always happy to talk to him, and he's always friendly with me. And one reason why, for me, it's important to sort of strike up these friendships with writers and creators like him is because, one day I want to sort of create something myself. So it's giving me an insight to what it is to be a creator on that level. We had Intergalactic-Con recently. We had the founder, Steve Kirk, a few weeks ago, and we were there yesterday, and it was a pleasure to be part of their inaugural event. So I'm happy to showcase, Comic-Cons and intimate cons like that are, starting to sprout up everywhere, and especially in San Diego. There's quite a few cons here in San Diego already. So it was a pleasure to talk to him. He's a real sort of advocate for nerd culture, and to, their hashtag was, free your fandom. And I think that was something that they did yesterday at Intergalactic-Con. And our most recent, one of our most recent podcasts was with Emily Mobley from Traveling Stories. And I'm a huge believer in what they're trying to do in terms of using literacy and reading to empower kids to outsmart poverty, which is I think an important thing to do. And that was such an empowering and powerful conversation. So yeah, these conversations that we have, it's really, it's opened my eyes and my understanding of how the world works. I mean, I take inspiration from you and Leonard and Alyssa on your weekly show. It's just something that, I'm like, wow, look at what these guys do on a week in and week out basis, like clockwork. It's so amazing to me.
Okay. The last thing that you can actually accuse us of doing is doing this on clockwork. But I appreciate I appreciate the comment. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's, and I'm honored to, every now and then to be part of the show, especially, doing live reports at different conventions. It's, I'm really honored, to be honest with you, and I'm really appreciative of the opportunity.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to the next live report you can bring us. So definitely looking forward to that. So where can people follow you online?
Just go to hall-h.com. It's like our hub for everything Hall H. All our social media is there. You can follow me on Comic-Con Fit. It's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and personally on Aaron Nabus on all the social media. It's sort of like where I sort of retweet all the Hall H and Comic-Con Fit stuff. I use it as a signal boost. Also talk about social media marketing and graphic design because I am a graphic designer by trade, and I love anything design. So that's where you can find me.
Well, there's something that I've got coming down the pipe after Comic-Con. I may be calling on you. So
sweet.
We'll see what happens on that. I've got to save some money first, but yeah, I'll see if I. Okay, excellent. Listen, thank you so much indeed for coming on, and looking forward to seeing you in San Diego in a few weeks' time, sir.
Likewise, I'm looking to having a few pints with you.
That sounds like a bloody good idea. Right now,
And Kevin too.
I could,
Yeah, same here.
I could go with that.
You can find
Take
me at
care and
Bayfront.
enjoy the rest of your day, Aaron.
Thank you.
Take care. Right. Okay. So this just kind of leaves myself and Kevin for a little while because we do want to wrap up our show with some bits and pieces that have been announced this week when it comes to Comic-Con and Comic-Con related news, and also when it comes to the week in TV. I know that Alyssa has asked Kevin to kind of jump in on that. So we will just deal with the announcements certainly this week regarding the badges have been going out. Let me very quickly pull these up because these have been coming. This was, like I say, we talked about this. It was announced on the Friday that the badges were going to be going out. This was on the Talkin blog, on comic-con.org, at which point they posted this picture. We are getting 2 badges this year. We're getting ourselves the dated badge, which is the standard logo. And we're also getting the toucan in a spaceman outfit, in an astronaut's kit. Okay, fair enough. I mean, there's not a great deal else we can talk about that. I mean, okay, that's the theme they've gone for. That I suspect is going to be a t-shirt design. I can imagine that's being talked about on the forum as well, that is going to be on a t-shirt. You know, yeah. I'd be up for that.
Me too.
It's pretty. It's cute. Obviously, we're waiting. I mean, I know that the some people are getting the. Let me just take that off the screen share. I know that a number of people have already got their badge boxes. If anybody is up for scanning the internal booklet and sending it to me, I would be more than happy because I want to see. Certainly because it usually has in there the trolley routes and the trolley stops for this year. So I wouldn't mind seeing that. If anyone's up for it, if you could scan that and send it to tips@anenglishmaninsandiego.com, I would be most grateful. Thank you. So yeah, if anyone has got their badge box through, I know that they are starting to land in people's doors now. So there we go.
Yeah, let's put that advisory out there again.
I've just been informed. Hang on, Dan Berry's telling me, no, not 2. You'll only randomly get 1 of them. Oh, man. Come on. Okay.
Time to pair up with your friends.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
But keep in mind, I think they had those pins in the registration area last year. So
they have, right, okay. I know the official line from CCI is that you only get 1 box each. They had piles of the things.
Yeah, piles.
Absolutely.
It was good. Them. I think it was more about the pins on the bags. That's where everyone's going after last year and the year before. But the other thing, going back to the advisory, just making sure that everyone remembers, don't put your personal information out there on social media. When you get your badge, cover up those the scannable and personal information. Just don't let someone scalp your stuff. All right.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing what comes in the box. Unfortunately for internationals, that's where, of course, you, Leonard, will have to probably wait a little bit. Unfortunately, right?
Yeah. We can get ours from the Tuesday.
Okay. So the other news that we can talk about, really, let's just talk about TV. Just get that out of the way. So
you do TV then? Well, I'm gonna do comics. You do TV first. Go for it.
Okay. So for TV this week, the big releases, I would say, is going to be Luke Cage. It's going to be on Netflix, premiering on Friday. Tonight, which is Sunday, we do not have Fear the Walking Dead because, of course, they wrapped up their prior season. So we have Into the Badlands wrapping up its 3rd season, which is a great show. Unfortunately, it has not been renewed yet, but waiting for that. Supergirl wraps up its season tomorrow, Monday. I think the season's been pretty good. A very challenging season for the whole cast. And they're already starting to talk about who's going to be promoted for regular and guest starring roles for next season, for the next series. So it's going to be interesting to watch. On the renewal front, we're still waiting on Timeless to be renewed. But people who are fans of Lucifer were extremely happy that Netflix picked up the series this week. So that was pretty much the big news coming in for renewal news. So I think pretty much Timeless is the only one waiting on it. I'm trying to figure out why NBC is still dragging their feet on the renewal for such a great series. So fingers crossed on that one.
I mean, it's something we could have been talking about earlier when we talked about the streaming companies spending all the money. I guarantee as part of the conversation when Netflix forked out for Lucifer, a conversation was, right, can we get Tom Ellis a hotel room, please? So, yeah,
I love that tweet. That tweet was awesome. Get him a tweet there. You know, he's such a personable guy. So I'm actually happy that the series was renewed. I'm not a huge fan of the series itself because there's so much on my plate to watch. But I was very happy that other folks that were really, really, really fans of the series, they're now happy that they have another season or maybe a few more of Lucifer. So I'm happy for them. That's
I mean, has it been announced? I mean, they've announced that they've ordered a 4th season. With the other renewals, such as Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I think also with The Expanse as well, you got a limited season order, didn't you? There was the episode count was down.
With Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I think it might be a more of a limited run. Or
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm wondering if Lucifer is going to be dropped down as well. But obviously we'll see when the announcements come out.
The devil in the details. Right now, I think it's more about getting an announcement out so folks will know, and they basically lock up the actors into the next season, because this is a critical time for a lot of folks. That's why Lauren Cohen is on another series for ABC, because basically her pilot was picked up, so she'll drop off a little bit more on the Walking Dead. But we'll see how it goes. The Expanse, I think they literally tweeted out a picture of the door to their writer's room. So that's a good sign that they're starting to plot out their next season. In terms of airing date, that's going to change, or we're not sure yet when it's going to happen. But they may or may not have a limited run. It all depends on what they have in terms of content and what they can work out in terms of the budget.
Fair enough. Anything else that you want to talk about in terms of TV? I mean, I can certainly speak to Legion, which finished its run last week. People were wondering how on earth they could do something to tie this season into some kind of neat bow. They didn't even bother. They didn't even try. They just kind of went at it and followed through with the threat of making Legion, the anti-hero villain of the piece. It's been an astonishing season, and I'm stunned that it's going to be coming back for a 3rd season. Really looking forward to it.
It is this is a series that you have to sit down and you have to watch every single. You can't take your eyes off of the screen. No. There's so much going on. I try to figure out how they plan their series and the visuals, because just plotting out their cinematography for each episode, it's a lot of undertaking. So I give them a lot of credit. That's a great series. For anyone who hasn't watched it yet, you sit down and have a good look at it. But keep in mind, this one will make sure that your eyes are visually delighted every single time you watch it.
Absolutely. Anything else?
No, that's it from my end. Just looking forward to hearing more news coming out this week. I think folks are going to start, the networks and such are going to start making their announcements on hopefully them coming to San Diego Comic-Con, not pulling back. But I know there's a huge commitment from the WB and DC. So I think right now we're pretty much banked on them right now.
Excellent.
And also, you know what we haven't really talked about?
Go on.
Wonder Woman 84.
Yes, well, I mean, we've had a couple of cute pictures, including a very nice one from Gal Gadot of her, and also it's great to see that Chris Pine somehow is going to be back and popping and locking with some street dancers. It's going to be fun. I mean, at the end of the day, it's Patty Jenkins, it's the team and the formula that have delivered such a great first film, and I'm looking for a sequel, so looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. I know they're probably going to bring a lot from that front.
I think there'll be a nice little teaser. We may even get a yet in. Well, that's what I'm going to lead on to the next thing as well, because we do know that we're going to be getting Aquaman. We've seen the new glyph. We've seen the promise that we're going to be getting the new trailer. But I suspect the person who's going to be coming out and tying the whole thing together is going to be Geoff Johns. Announced this week that he has stepped down as the Chief Creative Officer of DC Comics. He is now taking on the role of, I believe is it the president?
Yeah.
He's signed a writing and producing deal. That's right.
Yes.
With Warner Brothers and DC. So well, I think this has come. There's a two-pronged thing. Number one, Geoff Johns is going to spearhead stuff to move forward. We will finally get that Green Lantern film somewhere on a producing track. That's finally going to happen. The other thing about this is the business with Jim Lee, who now has been a writer and artist, a creative force at DC, but also as a publisher. But he hasn't really been sort of like knuckle deep into the nitty-gritty of how the DC universe has been going forward.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing about Geoff Johns is he likes his stories to kind of take in all sorts of areas from different corners and different quantities of the DC universe, which makes it for a very large and epic and expansive series of stories. Jim Lee likes to get a series of characters and drive a direct narrative. And maybe that's what DC Comics are needing right now. So looking forward to seeing what Jim Lee brings to that. The other thing that's come from DC as well that was announced this week is Black Label, which is a series of classic collections that have been put together with a nice prestige imprint, such as Batman White Knight, DC The New Frontier, Kingdom Come, Batman Year One, and Dark Knight Master Race. I would like to know if any of those creatives are going to be coming to San Diego to help launch this imprint. And I think we're going to be seeing a nice big side banner along with Vertigo at the DC stand as well. So looking forward to that.
I think this is their year for making a splash and actually laying
across the board.
Yeah, they
on
can
every front.
With Marvel taking a step back per se, I think this is an opportunity for DC that they better take it. I wouldn't say take it by the reins, but go for that gold ring.
Absolutely,
reach for that real strong.
Yeah, cool. The other things as well, very quickly, there has been a very nice Bill Sienkiewicz a stand that's been announced. Alex Ross is announcing more exclusives. Do follow all of their social medias for those. And just to wrap things up, I do want to mention something that's been pointed out on the chat room. Jennifer from Zombie Walk is joining us and saying hi and jumping in with various comments. Hello there, Jennifer. She's been blown away since we announced that Zombie Walk will be returning to San Diego Comic-Con with a brilliant Christmas theme. I can't wait to see that going through downtown. It's going to be so much fun. There are only 15 registration spots left for Zombie Walk. If you are wanting to take part, sign up now.
Go now.
Now. I want to see the viewer count tank now. Go and check that out. So no, looking forward to that. I think next week we're going to be talking a lot about Funko, if anything, because we did try and get something a little bit out of Chris there. I want to see if one of the big companies is going to take the advantage of the exclusives portal. I'm wondering if it's going to be whether we're just talking like the small independents, or if we're going to be seeing a major shift over to that opportunity, as well as the signings as well. So there we go. It's been a fun show. I've really enjoyed today. A lot to talk about, and yeah, it's been good. So much. Thank you so much, Andy, for stepping into Alyssa's shoes, mate. It's been fun.
Cheers. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you in a month.
Oh, you're telling me. Where can people follow you online?
All right, you can find me primarily at FOCC blog is the main Twitter handle for the Friends of Comic-Con blog, and also you can find me on my personal personal Twitter handle at Kevin DW42. As you can tell, I'm a big Doctor Who fan, so nice. I would be happy to step in for the moderator job for the Doctor Who panel. Just
fine. That's okay, because that'll just open up any other panel slots for myself. I mean, if anyone wants me to do Legion, I'll take it.
You take that? Okay, you got that. I'm planning on bringing my sonic screwdrivers. I have them all.
Excellent stuff. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, everyone. It's just been a fun chat. I mean, we haven't been able to cover everything that everyone's been saying, but we have jumped in with a number of things, and it's been great that people have had a chat on the YouTube, and yeah, it's been great to have everyone joining us for this week's show. Next week then, Alyssa returns, fingers crossed. Countdown to Comic-Con goes into full effect, of course, with Funko exclusives. I think we're talking next week, so we're talking in the next 7 days. We're going to be seeing our first run, and we're also going to be seeing exactly what kind of quantity we're going to be seeing those exclusives rolling out at. Do take care, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. If you are a father, I hope you are being treated and spoilt today. If not, hopefully that's coming down the pipe for Father's Day. A very a salutation day for you. So there we go. From us to you, take care. And yes, we will be seeing you in 7 days' time. And if not, we'll be seeing you in 4 weeks. It's on the way, guys. We'll see you soon. Take care.
It's happening.
It's happening.
See you later.